You're listening to the Second Look podcast, where we take a closer look at what we're learning each Sunday at Connection Church to help you grow in your walk with Christ. Here are your hosts, Pastor Joe Terreri and Pastor Dan DeRochers.
Welcome to the Second Look. My name is Dan.
And I'm Joe.
And we're here talking about, can we all just get along? Can we? No, we can't. Because it was just Thanksgiving, and I think we proved we are incapable.
Not at my house. We had a great Thanksgiving.
We also had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was with people that I have a very easy time getting along with. Lori and Brandon Shower, about the easiest people in the world to get along with.
Very true.
Honestly, if you can't get along with them, there's something wrong with you.
It's you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
You're the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so many times, I mean, there are some funny things when uncles and cousins.
I like when Louise said yesterday, Uncle Mayhem Mike. That was so funny.
But it's sometimes it's these people that we see once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah. Too many times, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now you live, aside from Lori and Brandon, you live far from family.
Yes.
We also live far from family.
Yes.
So we don't often have these times where we are together with those people that we see very infrequently, who sometimes just are a little bit quirky. But if you do live around family, you do have these moments where you're with people that can be a little bit challenging.
Absolutely. And I think every family has challenges. And to think, I think Louise said in the first service yesterday that, we can at least present our families as perfect. But the reality is none of us have perfect families. Yeah. And the reality is there's unpleasant parts of all of our personalities. It's not like, many of us do have that kind of one or two people in our family that drive us bonkers, but it really is all of us who have an as-is quality where if we're going to actually have successful relationships in family, grace and forgiveness must be part of every relationship that we have.
Joe, does it seem like we are the most critical of the people we are closest to?
I think we expect the most from the people we're closest to. And so, yes, that's part of that is being critical. But, sometimes I would say that's a two-way street, because sometimes I see people think like, oh, these people can do no wrong because it's my family.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because like your identity is wrapped up in like those people have to be awesome because that's part of your identity as being awesome. So, my wife can do no wrong. My kids can do no wrong. That's an unhealthy thing where we can get kind of blinded to the brokenness in our immediate family because, well, if we acknowledge that must be, if there's something wrong with them, then there's something wrong with me, and I'm not really willing to deal with pain and difficulty in my own life. But the flip side of that is as I think what you're alluding to, also in our families, we can kind of say like, oh, why are, I just want my mom to be perfect or my dad to be perfect, or why can't my kids just always be this? And so what we're really not accounting for in both sides of the equation is human brokenness.
I think the other side of that is people that we feel like that we're the closest in proximity to, and probably the closest in relationship to, we feel like we've got them nailed down.
Yeah.
We know how they are.
Yeah. They become one-dimensional in some ways. It's kind of like, we have like a, it's like we see... We kind of see them myopically. Like there's one way we see them. And then, especially in family things, it's like, well, you're always going to be this.
Well, that's another thing.
Yeah, and if you're always going to be that means no matter what God is doing in my life, I can't possibly outlive my past because I did this one thing, or I had this season of my life when I was addicted to this, or when I was doing this, or when I said that really hurtful thing, and now for the rest of time I'm just the drunk person, or I'm just the insensitive one, or I'm the one who's so selfish and always trying to get my way. And these are all things that people have said about me. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think we need to be careful that people like that narrative we tell ourselves about the people in our life. It may have been true at one point, but it doesn't mean it's going to be true forever.
No, but then you get around those people, and sometimes that same group of people brings out those certain tendencies inside of you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I know for me, like when I go home, I'm not Pastor Joe.
No, you're Joey.
I'm Joey. And so, there's just things that I still give my still give my family a hard time. I still make fun of my mom sometimes. My sister Laura and I give my sister Jill a hard time. And like all these family dynamics are just so real. And so it's interesting. I think what you're getting at is sometimes when we're with certain people, we end up playing a part.
Yeah.
We end up playing a role, even though maybe in our life outside that family unit, we've become a totally different person. And I think this is the reality of families, that people expect things from us, and then we give them what they expect, or we pull away, because I've seen people do this as well. Like, because family life has been painful in the past, instead of like, I love when Luis pointed out about Joseph and his brothers when he moved towards them, or when he asked them to come closer to him, and then he talks about how Jesus says, "Come to me." Instead of moving towards the people we love in the difficulty and the brokenness, we kind of remove ourselves from it. And it's not necessarily because there's abuse involved. I mean, sometimes I think we do have to draw hard lines. Let's say we're not talking about those things. We're just talking about, I don't really like this family, or I think, these people are toxic, so I'm just not going to be around them anymore. Or I'm going to show up for like an hour because that's all I can handle, and then I got to leave. And what we don't realize sometimes is what's missing in our hearts is grace. What's missing in our hearts is a wide soul. And I think, to your point, Dan, having a wide capacity to deal with the brokenness in our own family is one of the most painful things in life. And that's why sometimes I think it's easier just to check out and not deal with it. And that's real.
Yeah, I mean, the people that we should give the most grace to are often the people we give the least grace to.
Yeah.
We watched Home Alone last night as a family.
Oh my goodness.
And I was actually reminded of this when Kevin, when they were in the church,
Yes.
and Kevin's talking to his next door neighbor, and he and his son had gotten into a verbal argument.
Yes.
And he said he didn't care to see him anymore, and his son said the same, and they hadn't spoken since.
Yes.
No one had broken the ice.
Yes.
And that one thing that was said caused this immense amount of pain. And who knows, I mean, fictional characters.
No, but you're making a profound point.
Who knows how much pain wrapped up into that moment. And then two stubborn people, neither wanting to crack.
Yeah.
And it took the wisdom of an 8-year-old to say, like, hey, you should call your son.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin's life turned out great too. Anyway,
he's in a new commercial this year. He's doing
wow,
quite
that was
well.
his first acting job since '92. But anyway, sorry.
When he was walking down the street with the plastic bags that broke, Anna goes, "Oh, that's the same thing he does in the Glad ad." 40 years later.
He's still doing it. But I think that we need to be aware that the reason these things happen is because families, there is just a built-in reality that, let me put it this way. When Jesus commands us to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and mind and strength, and then he says the second commandment is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you just think about your life, and I think about my life, our closest neighbors is our family.
Yeah.
And so, and I think the hardest people we have loving as we love with the same intensity that we love ourselves is our family. Because in a family, you expect, like, well, we're in such close proximity. I need you to see me. I need you to understand me. I need you to be respectful of me. I need you to, I need you to anticipate my needs. I need you to know that I'm in a bad mood and I don't really want to talk right now. My personality, and this is the other thing, just because we're in the same family doesn't mean we're similar.
Yeah.
We might have the same last name, but we might have wildly different personalities, and those personalities clash. And so we struggle to love people in our families for all of those reasons. And then when you get two stubborn people involved, or the pain is too great, or you get someone who's really passive, then families can fracture. And I think what we're ultimately driving towards is that's what happens in most families without the gospel. Without Jesus Christ modeling for us what it means to truly forgive, we actually don't have a chance to have a healthy family. What we can do is we can soothe over all the issues. Let me rephrase that. We can gloss over all the issues. And so, yeah, we can get together, we can tell stories, we can laugh, we can drink a lot, but it doesn't mean we're being family, because maybe that's all the things we do to ignore maybe some of the underlying issues that we need to address. And it's difficult. And I just want to name that. It is so hard to address issues in families because it's so close to home. And it's like, if you have a disagreement with a friend, it's pretty easy to work out, because it's like, okay, we're friends. We can talk about it. Yep, I was wrong. Okay, or I forgive you. But with family, it's just like there's so much history and there's so much water that is not under the bridge, but that's been dammed underneath the bridge, and it's just continuing to rise, and then it's flooding our hearts. So without Christ and without understanding how we've been forgiven and the grace we've received, I think it's really difficult to have healthy family relationships.
If we've heard a sermon like this and God is really moving on our hearts, like, man, I need to pursue unity, I need to forgive, I need to have grace. And then we go into a family relationship who hasn't heard this sermon. I just can imagine, like, how do we process through that? Like, I want to be changed. I want to bring the gospel into that relationship, but my mom's making it real hard.
Yeah, that's good.
Or my cousin's making it,
don't talk
wherever
about Sue that way. Yeah.
You're not making it hard, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't talking about you, Sue. We're going to see her on Friday. So I think you're asking something really important, which is, how do I pursue peace and unity and real grace and forgiveness? Not just, hey, let's ignore the issues.
Yep.
Let's be peacekeepers instead of peacemakers. What if you're not going to get the reciprocation you need? And so I want to just challenge people with a really wild thought. Own your part first with no expectation. I think the first step to pursuing real forgiveness and real grace and real unity in a family, and I'm talking about when there's fractures and there's things going on and everyone knows it, be the first person to own your part. And don't be like, okay, your turn. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, then just think about it. Your apology, you're not actually sorry. Your apology is a manipulation to get other people to, reciprocate. And so
they haven't had the time to think about it that you have.
Right.
Right?
And so part of being someone who is pursuing grace and forgiveness. Now listen, if someone has wronged you and you have done nothing wrong, don't own your part, right? Like, if so I want to be clear, we're not like inventing things, but in most family conflict, I would say there's usually something everyone can, if they're in their heart of hearts, look in the mirror. Okay, just ask yourself this question, not what did they do wrong? Because you already know the answer to that, because that's what you're thinking about the most. What's my part in this? And even if your part is 5% of the conflict and it's really small, like, just going first is at least a step forward towards bringing peace. Because as Luis pointed out yesterday in Romans 12:18, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everybody. So you're going to do the part that depends on you. And that part may be being humble, owning your part, looking someone in the eyes and say, hey, I just want you to know, I know we're in conflict right now and I'm sorry for this. And be specific, like name it. Like, I'm sorry that I reacted this way and I said these words and I need your forgiveness.
I was thinking about something similar, about how we oftentimes are, because we're in our own head, we give ourselves a lot of grace.
Oh, because we are the captains of benefit of the doubt for our own lives.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're thinking.
Yep.
We know what our motives are.
Yep.
But we also are assigning motives to other people and all of those.
That's called being judgmental. Yep.
But one thing, as we're thinking about like owning what we can own, is thinking about what might someone else say about us, about our conduct, that might be the type of thing that we ourselves have been hurt by. I know we can't get out of our own head.
Sure.
We know what our motives are. But if we could take a moment and disconnect from our thought life and just look at our output, what are the things that someone else could say about us purely based on our conduct?
Right.
our tone of voice, the thing that we said, the thing that we did, how present or not present
That's
we
good.
were.
Yep.
Like, what could your kids say?
Yes.
Or your parents say, or your brother or sister say about what you did? Not what you intended to do.
Right.
Not what you were thinking about.
Right.
But what you actually did or actually said. I think if we could think about that and put that in front of us and try to objectively analyze our part, we might get a little closer to grace and unity for the other person and owning our own peace, because all others can judge us by is our output, not our thoughts.
Right. And I don't have much to add to that, because I think that's a really important way to think. It's, how am I coming across, and what's my part of it, and what can I own, and it doesn't matter what I like. Not that it doesn't matter, but like, what I think about my motives is actually only part of the puzzle. The other part is how am I being perceived? And listen, we can't always be responsible for how. Let me say this, as a preacher, I've learned I can't always be responsible for how people are perceiving my motives, my heart, and, what I'm trying to do in a given sermon. But what I can be responsible for is, hey, I want feedback about, like, how does that feel? How does it feel to be on the other end of me? How does it feel to work with me? How does it feel to be married to me? How does it feel to be, to have me as your father? And those are the kind of questions that I think are really difficult to ask, because it really flips the script in our head, which is usually saying, this person is failing me for reasons A, B, and C. And instead of asking, like, well, how do I need to change my expectations? How do I need to change how I operate? And this whole idea, like, there's this thing in our culture that I think is just so wicked. It's so wicked. And I think it's wicked because it actually undermines the grace of God and the Holy Spirit. And it's this is just who I am, deal with it.
Yeah.
And people say that in all different circumstances. Who cares about who you are? What matters is being the kind of person who represents Jesus Christ. It's being someone who's attentive to the Spirit. Like, if you are the kind of person who's like, well, this is just who I am, deal with it. What you're really saying is I'm not open to the transforming, sanctifying power of the Holy Spirit in my life. Because listen, hear me clearly. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I am not saying that's bad. But what I am saying is and you're a broken person. And who you are absolutely needs to come under the lordship of Jesus Christ. And so as Christians, we should never be saying in our family, like, oh, well, this is just who I am. I'm just stubborn, or I'm strong-willed, or I'm passive, or I'm shy. It's like, wait a minute. God wants to get a hold of every part of your life. And I'm not saying he wants to change your personality, but he wants to redeem the broken parts of who you are and fill those broken spaces with Christ. Yeah. And that's what we need to be open to. And that's how our families need to change. Imagine a family where everyone is saying, God, you see the broken places in me. You see the difficult parts of who I am. And I actually need you to invade those spaces and help me to become more like Christ.
Last night, right before the girls went to bed, I said, okay, girls, I need you to go upstairs, brush your teeth, and then get in bed. And instead, they stood on the stairs, and Piper said, come on, Anna, let's go. And Anna said, no. And so all of a sudden, they're fighting and squabbling on the stairs. And I'm like, hey, girls, I told you, go upstairs. And they refused. Anna refused to go up with Piper. Piper refused to go up alone. We've talked about their codependency. And so I went up with them, and I said, all I asked you to do was obey. That's all I asked you to do. Just do what I said without
do the thing. Yep.
Do the thing without getting in a fight and refusing to do it.
Good thing you're not still angry about it.
Well, Anna got in bed. They finally did it, got in bed after I went upstairs with them.
Yeah.
And Anna looked at me from in bed, and I said, Anna, it would be so much easier if you just did what I asked you to do. And she said, you don't know what it's like to be scared.
Oh my gosh. You don't. You have no idea.
Because I'm such a man. But
Powerful, though.
In that moment, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
My expectation.
Yeah, that's good, Dan.
And my opinion, my analysis of the situation was Anna and Piper were being disobedient.
Yeah.
Piper was trying with all her might. She was trying to convince Anna so she could be obedient.
Yeah.
But what I couldn't tell was what was happening inside of Anna's little heart.
Yep.
She was scared.
Yep.
That fear won over in this. I don't know if she was even thinking about it,
Right.
but all she knew was, I'm not going to do that. And it just was one of these moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, I can't know all of the factors that are happening here. I can't know. I'm really glad she opened up to me, and we had patched it up by then, and it was okay.
Powerful moment, though.
Super powerful moment. We can't know all of those things that are happening.
And just to maybe finish with this thought when it comes to family, we actually, because we're super close to people, we think we know all about them.
Yep.
But that's not true. We actually don't know. We don't know all about our kids. We don't know all about our spouses. We don't know all about our parents. We don't know the experience. We don't know every experience they've ever had. We don't know every hurt they've ever gone through. We don't know about all their fears and all their worries. And sometimes we're just frustrated because we're like, why can't you just be? What we're often saying is, why can't you just be a whole person who doesn't need care? And the truth is, that's none of us.
Yeah.
And so, understanding how much Jesus has met us in our brokenness really allows us, if we'll let it. But that's the only place we're going to find the power to do it.
Yeah.
Is if we understand where the power is. And the power is in the grace and the mercy we've received from Jesus. And understand that when you understand your own brokenness and you understand your history, that's actually what God is asking us to have for others. Yeah. A wide, compassionate, soft, tender heart towards all the people in our lives. And it doesn't enable them to continue to be idiots, but it does allow us to say, I can forgive, I can show mercy, I can show grace, because that's what I get day in and day out from our King, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Well, this has been another episode of The Second Look. You can catch this sermon and so much more at our website, cometoconnect.com. Have a great week.